Well then, seems like we actually traveled back to the past for about almost likely 28 years ago, but as a matter of fact for the Mario Kart Let's Plays for all that stuff. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Mickey Mouse here from the likes of the Merxy Toys videos. Welcome to our brand new Let's Play for our channel, specifically the next new Let's Play entering in 2020, and this time around though, as you can clearly tell, we are going back to the past from 1992, as you can see from the copyright Nintendo label, because we're about to be doing our Let's Play of Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom for those who lived in Japan. Now this game, as I said before, this game came out in 1992, which is roughly the same year as when Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came around for the Sega Mega Drive, as well as for films department wise, mainly for Aladdin most likely, because you know how the fact that with 1992 version of that film is more superior than the likes of the recent live action remakes. So even then, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point. So even then, as you can tell by the actual quality perspective on that specific footage, I'm going to be playing this on the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, just like how it did when we did done with Kirby Superstar / Kirby's Fun Pack in the PAL region, but except this time around though, as you can clearly see on screen, there is no special borders around in the actual sides of the screen sadly, because well, I was supposed to be able to do it just to make it a little bit more of a racing theme, but unfortunately that's not the case for the Super Nintendo Classic Mini sadly. So, but regardless of everything else though, I think as far as I can usually say about this for the most part though, I'm actually pretty excited to able to do with the final 4 of those Mario Kart Let's Plays for our channel, because after we're done with those 4, we are basically done with the entire series as of now. So even then though, the entire main focus of this Let's Play is going to be most likely in Grand Prix mode, just because, well, much like in any other Mario Kart Let's Plays from the past, since Mario Kart DS all the way up to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is the fact that we're going to be showing you guys the actual Grand Prix. As for everything else though, sadly I can't seem to show you guys the battle modes for some reason, because, well, if you couldn't tell already, this only requires us to play multiplayer to able to play through battle mode, so I just want to point that out right away. So from the get-go, this is the first game in the series of course, so to be expected we got ourselves 8 racers, which there are Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Princess Peach, Bowser, Koopa Troopa, Toad, and the only time we're going to be seeing Donkey Kong Jr. for this entire, well, I would say the Let's Play department actually, because if you couldn't tell already, that was before when Mario Kart 64 was exist and beyond, that he will be replaced by normal Donkey Kong, because as far as I'm aware, Donkey Kong Jr. will never make a comeback in journey forms of the 2000s. Well, it wasn't until when Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64 did actually bring him out as a playable character on that game. So, for the record though, as usual from any other Mario Kart Let's Plays, I'm going to be selecting Toad for the first cup, for the sake of the forms of the first video of this Let's Play. And obviously the main focus of this entire Let's Play is obviously and takes place in Grand Prix, as you can see right there. Now, as you can tell, we're going to be selecting 50cc to start off with, because as you can tell, there are only 3 cups to start off with, which there are the Mushroom Cup, Flower Cup, and the Star Cup. And however though, whenever we get to the later class, specifically 100cc, which we'll get to that in journey forms of next weekend, because obviously, if you couldn't tell, because of the different daily upload schedule system, this will be mainly focusing on weekends, because as far as I'm aware, just like how we did on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe during the forms of last year, so even then, we figure we might as well do the same thing for here, so anyways though, so let's get to it with Super Mario Kart. To be expected is a racing game, and usually, relatively speaking, is the fact that the entire objective is very simple. Basically, we need to beat the likes of these players during in that particular racetrack and get some items along the way. Speaking of the items, actually, is the fact that some items usually can be ranging from green shells, banana peels, red shells, and especially noticeable with the Starman, mushrooms, and all that. Even then though, what's weird about this installment compared to the future games is that in order to actually get the items is that you need to drive past for those little flat little question mark blocks on the actual road, as you can see. But even then though, once you have obtained that, it actually turns into red, this means you can no longer gonna attain them if you go to the next few laps worth noting for. And speaking of laps actually, is the fact that this will be the only Mario Kart game that, in a majority of the tracks anyway though, is gonna take place in 5 laps, as opposed to normal 3, until whenever we get to Mario Kart 64 I should say. But I digress though. As you can see on this first track, as you can see right there, we're actually racing on Mario Circuit 1. And this track we're able to bring it back in the forms of Mario Kart DS, by the forms of the Shell Cup. And also same applies for Mario Kart Tour, the most recent Mario Kart game on the mobile phone. Or in this case as of now. So as to be expected, that it depends on what position you're in, although differently compared to the future games though, specifically Mario Kart Double Dash and beyond. Specifically this game, 64, and especially noticeable for Super Circuit, in order to actually proceed to the next track, as you can see right there, well, I'll explain more on that later, because the next track we're going to be racing on is Donut Plains 1. In this case, in this matter though, that particular track will also make a return in the forms of Mario Kart DS, by the forms of the Banana Cup. So I just want to let you guys know, so even then I just want to classify for such. However, there's one thing I have to admit though right away, is that some of these controls in this game is not that perfect by any means, because there are a few times that I was able to do a slight of a drift, but most of the time though I just keep on slipping off the road most of the time, because as far as I'm aware, I understand this is the first game in the series, but it's kind of hard to get back into this game sometimes, because I'm more into with you know, the modern Mario Kart games specifically, because, well, for one obvious thing is the fact that this is the only Mario Kart game to able to feature that you hold down the B button to accelerate as opposed to A, because if you press the A button, this allows you to use items. And then, as far as I'm aware though, that's as far as I can say about it. And also, as you can see on the bottom right corner, well, specifically the top portion of the screen, because just like the forms of the Sonic Drift duology games, is that, although it's completely opposite between the forms of Sonic Drift and this, is that obviously on the top screen it basically shows you the actual racing in action, whilst on the bottom screen, as you can see right there, it actually says it actually tells you the actual map. Whilst the forms of Sonic Drift 1 and 2, it actually shows the map on the top and then the actual racing in action on the bottom. So it's like the opposite in reverse, but I kind of prefer it this way from Super Mario Kart because, well, it's on the console basically, so even then I just want to classify that. And also, thankfully though, the actual, oh god, that was really close. I'm almost gonna get hit by those fireballs, which I'll point it out whenever we get to it and during the forms of tomorrow's video, specifically whenever we get to the next cup, but not now though, because even then we've already just got started with this Let's Play, so... Anyway, so as you can see, on this little continuous multicoloring flashing one, as you can see right there, that this is what I mean when it comes to the forms of the results, as you can see right there. In order to actually proceed to one race to another, is the fact that if you're trying to go for first, second, third, or fourth, it doesn't really matter. That way you can able to proceed to the next track. However, if you go below fifth or lower, this is what the actual life system comes in, especially noticeable just like in Super Circuit, although the only exception is of course Mario Kart 64, but we'll get to that whenever we get to that Let's Play at some point, so... But I digress, and as you can see, the next track we're going to be racing on is of course Ghost Valley 1, and that particular track will make a return during the forms of Mario Kart Tour, in certain cups anyway though, depends on what tours we're going to be entering for. And as far as I'm aware though, out of all the actual tracks in this entire game so far, compared to the future games throughout, Ghost Valley tracks might actually be quite difficult, at least in my opinion, because, well, for one noticeable thing is the fact that we now actually come across into ourselves no guardrails to be saved around here, and second, every time you bash into those little walls, as you can see right there, it actually creates a more open when it comes to likely if you accidentally fell into the bottomless pit below. So if I were you, you should be very precise on that specific drifting and stuff like that. And also, really? We got shrunk! Yeah, something's worth mentioning actually is the fact that some of these opponents, specifically the actual, well, I'll point it out later on, and as you can see, I managed to jump over for that specific gap to create a nice little shortcut, which basically, the actual item, as you can tell, that I managed to use is the actual Cape Feather, which, what that does is that this allows me to able to actually jump over something, which can be very useful though, especially if you really want to go for those shortcuts like this ones, and then basically you can able to actually become number 1 just like so. But even then, that's not to say about the fact that it just gets a little bit more simple and self-explanatory, but even then, we'll point that out whenever we continue for this point of this Let's Play, so... But anyway, though, is that, yeah, as I mentioned this before about the forms of the ranking system, although then again, we'll explain more on that in just a second. So the next track we have is Bowser Castle 1. Very standard, particular track, I suppose, but, the only hazardous you need to worry about is, of course, fell into the actual lava, and especially noticeable, there's going to be tons of thwomps, so even then, we do need to watch out for those. Thankfully, there are some dash panels along the way, so that you can able to actually speed things up a little notch. But anyways, though, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, with the ranking system, if you go 5th or 8th, well, usually 5th or 8th and below, is the fact that that's what the life system comes in, because I think in order to actually get extra lives in during forms of the entire Grand Prix run, is the fact that you need to collect those coins, which even then, unlike the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart 7, and especially noticeable with Mario Kart 8, that you can able to actually carry up to more coins during the forms of certain parts of the track, which I think is actually pretty swell, if I should say so for myself, because that way, the more you collect those coins after when you finish the race, then the more you're able to actually get a chance to get extra lives, because, again, if you go below 5th or below from that, you will lose a life, unless if you're able to retry the race. So, think of like the actual platformer game, except it's actually a racing game, so even then, that's to be expected by this point. I know I haven't really touched upon this game for quite a long time actually. I think the first time I've ever experienced this game was actually first downloaded this on the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console version back in I would say in 2010, which is pretty much a decade ago, so even then, but I didn't manage to able to, I didn't got the physical copy of this sadly, just because I've noticed that the pricing on that specific matter is actually getting outrageous at points, but it wasn't until I managed to finally get my hands on the actual game properly during the forms of the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, as you can tell from the actual quality of this. So, there's not much to say around for this, for the sake of the forms of Super Mario Kart, basically. It's a nice little start when it comes to the forms of the most beloved franchises of all time, specifically when it comes to Mario Kart series in general. But some people seem to think that this game didn't age well enough as far as what they hoped, but then again, we'll point it out later on though for the sake of some more uploading schedules for that time for Super Mario Kart wise. Now on to the final track on the forms of, well, the Mushroom Cup basically, and here we're actually going to be revisiting back to Mario Circuit, but except this time, it's Mario Circuit 2. And that particular track will make its return during the forms of Mario Kart 7 via the forms of the Banana Cup, and same applies for Mario Kart Tour as well, at least depending on the actual tours they actually going to be brings us to, so... And there's that moment that we need to able to actually just make a good chunks of speed so that you can able to actually just jump over the actual ramp, so that seems worth noting for anyway. Something's worth mentioning, by the way, is the fact that this is the only time in a Mario Kart game that it does, not only does it feature 5 laps in each track, but also 5 courses in one particular cup, so I think that brings me to something wondering about the fact that how much courses they actually contains. I think there are about 20 of them, which unlike Mario Kart 64 and probably Double Dash, because technically Super Circuit is more likely has the exact same amount of tracks and all that stuff, but to be more specifically, Mario Kart 64 and Double Dash, they both managed to get themselves 16 tracks, which even then, unlike the future games from Mario Kart DS all the way up to Mario Kart 8/8 Deluxe, well, relatively speaking, they'll just add a lot more just because they added in retro tracks to the table and just remastered them. So it's pretty cool though. But I digress. So anyways, let's go ahead and place the green shell just about. Oh, I don't know. How about you, Koopa Troopa? Ha! Anyways, though, I might try my best to able to actually just claim first place in each track, though, but then again, I'll try my best, because as far as I'm aware, though, the actual controls might take a while to get used to, especially noticeable how, the actual acceleration goes, but I'll try my best if I was going to be able to become grateful enough as it goes by. But then again, out of all the actual Mario Kart games I actually did manage to play through, aside from, well, the lowest one is still Mario Kart Tour, just because of microtransactions they actually add in. Although, I will admit though, but either way though, let's not get ahead of ourselves just for this point. After when the actual cup itself is now finished, then it actually tells us the actual award ceremony, as you can see right there. So in this case, we are the number 1 here, so top notch for that. 50cc Mushroom Cup race, Toad win the gold. Great race. So, I think that happens every time whenever you complete certain Grand Prix, so much so. But even then, no, that's just for the first video anyway, though. Speaking of such, actually, I noticed there might be some slight differences between the English version of this game compared to the Japanese version, but we'll save that in a later time for the sake of the forms of this Let's Play. So, I guess we'll pretty much get things off here. So yeah, join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Super Mario Kart. It's the fact that we are moving on to 50cc's Flower Cup. So yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Later, fellas.